So the Detroit Lions won last night, 34-20 over the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field. Looked outstanding in doing so. After Jared Goff's initial interception, third play of the game to Rudy Ford, in which the Packers settled for a field goal, he was magnificent throughout the night. His numbers wouldn't indicate it. He only threw for a little over 200 yards. Completion percentage is solid. He had a touchdown pass. QBR is pretty good of 61, 0 to 100. Passer rating, about 86, 87. So nothing to write home about, nothing to go crazy about. But Jared Goff was efficient. Jared Goff made big-time throws. Jared Goff made a tough throw to the kid, the tight end. I really like that they have Sam Laporta made a tough throw to him down the middle of the field at one point in the game. I remember after the first game of the season, just 3 weeks ago, and the funny thing is the Lions are actually going to end up playing 3 Thursday games this year because of the opening night game against the Chiefs last night and Thanksgiving Day as they do annually. But what I thought was mind-boggling about Detroit after that win against Kansas City on opening Thursday night is that the questions the next day, what is wrong with the Chiefs? Is Patrick Mahomes going backwards? Travis Kelce, Chris Jones need all these guys, and Andy Reid, what are you doing going forward? And their right tackles playing tight end, basically, in terms of where he's lined up and false starting everywhere. And my takeaway was, while all of those things are certainly true and absolutely contributed to Kansas City losing that, can we not give just an ounce of credit to Detroit? An improved defense. Jared Goff didn't turn the ball over in that game. They ran the football effectively. And this is the big thing I said with the Detroit Lions. It's not just the fact that for once again, the third game this season, they did what they tend to do under Dan Campbell.
Kneecap.
I had to bring that back out. I had to do it. What I love about this Detroit Lions team, folks, it's the very, very, very reason I had this team participating and playing in the NFC title game this year against the Dallas Cowboys. This is why. That offense last year, the offense you saw dominate Green Bay yesterday, just as good last year. Just as good last year when they went 9-8. They got hot down the stretch. I think they went 8-2 in their last 10. Nearly made the playoffs. Came that close. The defense was atrocious. Pass defense, the whole bit. What have you seen for Detroit this year through the first 4 games? Absent the Seattle game, you get props. Seattle's an excellent offense, so that obviously factored in as well. But against Kansas City, against Atlanta, and now last night against the Green Bay Packers, who you would think might be humming to a certain degree offensively because of the big-time fourth quarter they had against the Saints. Again, more on Green Bay and more on Jordan Love in a few minutes. But it's the fact that Detroit, when their secondary isn't playing great, and there was a couple plays in that game, you saw Jordan Love is throwing to some wide open guys. Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs are just streaking wide open across the field. So the secondary is a bit of a concern if you're a Detroit Lions fan. It's their ability to rush the passer. How about Aiden Hutchinson? I saw this stat today. This is according to Pro Football Focus, okay? Aiden Hutchinson, if I could pull up the stat here. There it is. Of second-year defensive players, so guys that were drafted in 2022, second-year defenders, Aiden Hutchinson has 6 games of 6 or more pressures. Okay, 6 games where he's pressured the quarterback 6 or more times. The entire 2022 draft class has 5 combined. So this guy is making that big year 2 jump we thought he might. I remember saying before that 2022 draft, the Jags should have taken him instead of Trayvon Walker. I think the Jags, it's early, but might be regretting that decision to a certain degree, especially how they struggle to get to the quarterback at times. But Aiden Hutchinson's a monster. They got that great linebacker, Alex Anzalone, who made some big-time plays, helped with the tipped interception that Love threw in his own end zone. When he tipped the ball, making some big-time tackles out there. Brian Branch, who I'm thinking, oh my God, is he out for the season? God forbid, maybe an Achilles injury. Turns out it's just an ankle, and turns out he gets right back up and gets out in the field. Again, seems to be kind of the mindset of the Dan Campbell team. Not only that, and we talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown, we talk about Sam Laporta, Jared Goff throwing all over the field, Josh Reynolds. What Detroit can do, and again, I've always said running the football is not the difference between you winning or losing a Super Bowl. We have plenty of evidence of the last 4 years to show you just that. However, it certainly helps take the pressure off your quarterback. That's always been a general rule of football. How about David Montgomery? Last night, former Chicago Bear. Again, great move, Chicago, not bringing this guy back, right? 32 carries. That's unheard of. That's like Derrick Henry numbers. 32 carries for $121, nearly 4 yards a carry, 3 tuds. First win, by the way, of his career against the Green Bay Packers. God knows he wouldn't win no games with Chicago against Green Bay. We know how that ownership, situation goes there, with Green Bay constantly beating Chicago twice a year. But here's the point, and here is, so often in professional sports, even sometimes in life, when somebody or something has been kind of a dud or kind of a laughingstock for so long, we kind of just overlook it, right? I mean, we think about, in recent years, I'll use example, my Tennessee Volunteers. Up until last year, we were one of the laughingstocks of college football. I say that as a Vols fan. Keep running through coaches. Recruiting isn't great. The big dogs in the SEC beat you up every year. Alabama, Florida, Georgia, teams like that, Auburn. And then you get the right coach, and then you get the right quarterback, and then you start recruiting. You've got the fan base. That kind of is set in stone. And you get that win over Alabama, and the whole outlook nationally for Tennessee instantly changes. And we view them, now obviously they're lower in the top 25 than you would like for them to be, certainly as I would like them to be as a Vols fan, but we view Tennessee as now a respectable program. From about 2008 to 2021, we were not quite that. That, to a far greater degree, is what the Detroit Lions are. In the last 60, I think the number is 65 years, they've won a single solitary playoff game. That was 1992, I believe it was, the 91 season, early 1992, when Barry Sanders led the Lions to a 38-6 win over the Dallas Cowboys right before their dynasty started. Last time that's happened. Detroit's run through coaches. They've had two all-time generational talent offensive players that only played 9 years. We felt like they probably could have or should have went longer than they did in Barry Sanders and in Megatron Calvin Johnson. We look at the San Francisco 49ers, this well-run organization. They draft well. They pick up free agents. They're well-coached. Historically, they have had success. They won 5 Super Bowls. We look at them as a contender. Philadelphia only has 1 Super Bowl, but it's historically been a well-run franchise. They've got good coaching, good quarterback play, excellent defense, excellent offensive line, good weapons. Great ownership group, phenomenal general manager. We view them as a contender. By the way, as we should, both of those teams. Even Dallas, who hasn't had the recent success, but they've got the 5 Super Bowls. Most honest people think Dak is at least a very good quarterback, albeit potentially a great quarterback. Mike McCarthy has won a Super Bowl. The defense is amazing. We understand how it is for Dallas. We view those teams as contenders, again, rightfully so. But then we just snub the Detroit Lions. Why? History. How many Super Bowls? They have 1 playoff win in the Super Bowl era. Okay, was it Bobby Lane? It was the quarterback back in the day who kind of put the curse over the Lions, so to speak, when he left the organization. They haven't really recovered since in terms of playoff success. But it's a new day in Detroit. It's a new coach. It's a new quarterback. It's a new roster. It's a new front office. They know what they're doing. They have... Let me ask you this question. Again, when we talk about the contenders in the NFC, because that's what Detroit has to go through if they want to make a long playoff run. Let me rephrase it like this. What do San Francisco, Philadelphia, and Dallas have that Detroit does not? Detroit's got a top 10 quarterback. I think Goff, we can say that now. He's a top 10 quarterback. He's probably right at 10, but check his numbers from last year. Check this year. He's been good in the fourth. Actually, he's been excellent in the fourth quarter. He's been efficient. Overwhelmingly doesn't turn the football over. Takes shots down the field. Can make elite NFL throws. And he has been doing it for a while now. They've got a top 10 guy. So does Dallas. So does Philly. I don't view Brock Purdy as a top 10 guy, but I like him way more than most. Detroit has an elite offensive line. I think it's better than Dallas's. I think it's better than San Francisco's. It's probably in that discussion with them in Philly. Penei Sewell is a unit at tackle. Monster up front. Taylor Decker's an excellent guard. Wide receiver weapons. They don't have the household names. Dallas has CeeDee Lamb, and the Eagles have A.J. Brown, and the Niners have either Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel. But they got Amon-Ra St. Brown. And they've got Josh Reynolds. And they've got the kid coming back from the suspension, looks like early, Jameson Williams. We saw what he did in Alabama. If he comes even close to replicating that, he'll be a legit player in this league. Outside of San Francisco, Detroit has just as good at tight ends as Philly and Dallas do. You see what Sam Laporta is doing the first few games this season? He's been a top 10 tight end already coming in the NFL. He's better than whoever Dallas has, whether it's Ferguson or whoever they've got. Dallas Goedert, he's fine, like him. He's a product of the system that's in Philadelphia. Defense. And we look at, oh my gosh, San Francisco's is overwhelming, which it is. Dallas and Philly's kind of in that same class as well. But Detroit has elite playmakers in their secondary like Brian Branch. They've got great linebacking play. which I think it's better than Dallas and way better than Philadelphia. Their linebacking play, Alex Anzalone leading that group. And then defensive line, Niners, Cowboys out. Maybe they're not as good at stopping the run as the Philadelphia Eagles are, although they did a great job last night. But man, they can get to the quarterback. Again, the Packers, sure they were missing David Bakhtiari. Sure they were. But the Packers coming into this week, Pro Football Focus, knowing Bakhtiari was on IR. Detroit just continued to get to Jordan Love, continued to get to the quarterback, brought him to the ground. Got pressure on him. Aiden Hutchinson was everywhere last night. So again, I ask you, what do those teams have that Detroit does not? This is not just hype. This isn't just, again, by December, a lot of you people are going to be saying, you know what? Bryson might have been right about this. Yeah, let's go and hop on this Lions bandwagon. They're a contender. Y'all have been saying this since, April, when they dominated the NFL draft. And by the way, not to mention, they barely used Jahmyr Gibbs. And you see Lions fans on Twitter like, man, guys, let's use Jahmyr Gibbs. They will eventually. I promise you that Ben Johnson's a smart OC. They will eventually. That's something else. Detroit has a smart coaching staff, offensively and defensively, and their head coach has their team ready to go and is solid and situational, situationally in these games. So yes, Detroit is absolutely, unequivocally a contender in the NFC, which is not quite as weak as maybe I had initially thought coming into this year, albeit we're not even a month into the season. Yeah, I understand that. But again, they've got all the pieces to potentially go on a run. It's why I have them playing in the NFC title game. This is not just an excellent football team, this is a great football team. This is a top 8 football team at worst case scenario. That's not to say they're better than the Dolphins or the Niners. They're not better than the Niners, but probably not better than Dallas. But can they compete with those teams? Can they beat those teams in the playoffs? 100%. And I think they continue to exhibit that week in and week out. I said coming into last night's game when I predicted Detroit to win, all of the Vegas Sharps, they were all over Green Bay. Listen, even the best get it wrong. It's fine. It happens. But I said about Detroit coming into last night, I said, I was almost more impressed by the win against Atlanta on Sunday than I was most of their wins going back to last season when they were beating teams via shootout, 38-35, stuff like that. Yes, Atlanta's unbelievably limited at quarterback. Desmond Ridder's not the guy. They're going to draft a quarterback in 2024. They've got Kyle Pitts, they've got Drake London, and they've got Bijan Robinson, and they've got a good O-line, which Detroit dominated. Held them to 6. It's a new day in Detroit, Lions fans. Get ready. Get pumped. I mean, did you see all those Lions fans taking over Lambeau? How cool was that? That was really awesome. So, congrats to the Detroit Lions. Great win last night. And ladies and gentlemen, that is 1,000% a Super Bowl contender. And I've been telling y'all that since the offseason. It's great that America's finally getting to see it. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.